If you're like me and you're tired of seeing zero impact apps lurkers, or you're an apps lurker yourself and want to be a bit more useful, then this video is for you. Today, we're going to learn a few tips and tricks on how to support your team better and win more Inferno games. But before we dive all the way in, I want to thank today's sponsor, SkinsMonkey. For those of you that don't know, SkinsMonkey is an automated CS2 trading site that allows you to select the old skins you don't want anymore and pick out some new ones from the monkey. It's a great way to freshen up that old dusty inventory, and hey, that's not all. They have some amazing filter and selection features, as well as 24/7 live support. If you click the link in the description, you can get a free $5 and a 30% deposit bonus that becomes 35% if you use my code TACTICS on the site. Don't miss out on this offer and check out SkinsMonkey today. Let's get back into the video. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started. Before we dive into the T-side halls lurking, we need to understand how CTs typically play in this area of the map. If you had to guess the best spawn versus best spawn contact point, where would you say they'd meet? Believe it or not, if the CTs run straight through brackets, they not only win the halls race, but can beat you to this door. Of course, you could just go through the red door in T-Apps to gain the advantage. However, you're still losing to halls and even to stairs. Now, in contrast to that, one timing that surprises a lot of people is the fact that even if the CTs take the fastest possible path in towards house, the fastest T-side player is actually going to beat them under the window where they can't get peeked. Of course, you could catch someone on a worse timing, but it's something to keep in mind. Now, of course, every single CT is not going to be running through brackets and risking getting picked crossing mid. If you take a more passive sight approach, you're still going to be winning this race by a pretty significant margin. As you can see, we're still making it all the way up into stairs and getting that timing before the Ts make it there. So naturally, most of the pros on T side are going to be throwing a molly to disrupt a lot of those timings. As you can see, Rops here is throwing a molly that's going to end up landing right here in the middle, and it's going to block off both the entrance into house and that stairs peak. So the way most professional players are throwing this is by going to the left of this little green column. They're going to end up aiming down from the bottom right of this door frame, just to the right of the door, under the stairs, and doing a nice run, jump throw, and release just after they hit the middle of the bridge. You're going to make sure you shoot out the glass before or after you throw it, and guess what? That's mollying out this position and this position where they can't take a peek down here onto stairs, and they can't get into house without burning, paying a little bit of a health tax. Now, of course, all together in one motion, it's going to look something like this. A lot of times, I like to flash off this wall to blind anyone peeking in towards alt mid from mid, and then I'll just make my way on up here, and I don't have to worry about anyone in these positions here up close. So I can just take my time, move on up, and then get methodical with how I'm clearing. And yes, if you're curious, I do have my ESEA League teammates throwing a very similar molly. As you can see, pretty much the exact same lineup is being thrown here, and they like to pair up a nice HE along with it to catch anyone crazy enough to run through here. Believe it or not, it's just gonna straight up kill someone if it hits. If you throw the molly correctly and quickly, this is what the timing is going to look like from the CT perspective with the best spawn. Now, since the pros throw this pretty much every single round, you'll see players like Mazzino for the Mongols just straight up throw a smoke and kind of take their time back here and spawn because they're still going to win that race to halls, since that's really the only race that matters. Mazzino actually has a pretty nifty skill jump here up on top of the blue truck. Fair warning, that's a very difficult one to pull off, but as you can see, he beat Bit to the timing. He actually hears Bit burning that molly, falls back to pit, and gets here safely. And yes, you can make that timing work out without hitting that jump that Mazzino hit. You're just going to lose out on a couple of seconds here, and that's going to make the timing window a bit tighter. However, if they're throwing mollies like they are in this example and actually taking a little bit of time to clear a couple angles before they just run straight into halls oblivious, you're going to be winning that every single time. And just in case that's got you worried, here's an example where the Ts throw no utility and just run straight there without clearing anything. You're still going to win the race by about a second, so be ready. Now on the flip side, let's take a look at how Bit generally clears out apartments if he goes upstairs. Now, one thing I want you to keep in mind is his crosshair placement. Notice how he's ready for pretty much any common angle or any common fight. Notice how he's kind of slicing the pie on his way up here, and he's definitely ready for any sort of player or CT inside halls as he's scaling on up. Now, a lot of times after I've cleared out all of the initial angles here towards the bottom of the stairs, I'll chuck an HE down into boiler to see if I can't catch someone standing here waiting for me to move through. Of course, during the major, a lot of teams have been using this boost, where on top of this guy's head, you can just do a nice little crouch jump onto this position of the window and take the angle like this. This is much safer than jumping up onto the balcony through this window, because a lot of times you'll have CTs that are holding it or ready for it. This way, it's going to be a little bit safer for you to get on up here and kind of take the peak on your own terms. Now, after you've boosted a teammate up into apps, one way that you can help them take this deeper control is by getting right alongside this corner and doing a jump throw down from this door where it would intersect with the bottom of the staircase. If you go a little bit higher up in the bottom edge, it's gonna land a little better, and you're just gonna do, again, a simple jump throw. So this is gonna be team safe, where it's gonna land on this side of the door. This guy can peek in on this guy, and it's also gonna have this player completely blinded without much time to react. Now, once you've actually taken Hall's control, if you go right here into this corner alongside the radiator and do a simple left-click throw in the middle of this brick, that is going to be the Apps Lurk Smoke. This thing's going to allow you to incrementally clear your way out of balcony, check pit, you can check out here towards this position and even the top of balcony without ever exposing yourself to sight. This is one of the most important smokes that an Apps Lurker can know because it just puts so much pressure on the CTs, even if you don't use it. Now, after I've thrown that smoke, one of my favorite things to do if I still have a molly left over is count 1, 2, 3 bars over from this middle post. I'm gonna end up lining up on that and doing a simple left click throw with this angled portion of this wire all the way out here. It's kind of hard to see, I turned my crosshair off, but if you just do a simple left click throw, that is gonna end up completely mollying out all of pit. So that way you only have 2 angles to worry about instead of 3. Now, the reason I consider this to be a common angle is because when these 2 pieces of utility are down, this is the only operable sight pit crossfire angle left. And hey, if you want to make it even easier on yourself after you throw that smoke, and of course after you end up throwing this Molotov, you can then just crouch down, left click at the top of this chimney, and you're going to end up flashing that position down here in pit, meaning the only position that's not affected by utility is the top of balcony. Now, if you just really hate this position right here on balcony, you can molly it out instead of pit by going in between these 2 darker posts here, right on this middle bar, and doing a crouching left click throw towards the top left of this little window here in the chimney. That should spill straight down to here and completely molly this out all the way to the edge after a couple of seconds, causing this player to either have to drop off or run out into the open, getting completely mowed down by you. Or hey, if your team's really bad at taking A, and for example, they don't know the Moto Smoke, you can throw that instead of the Lurk Smoke by going to this position here where you can see this green shutter. You don't want to overexpose where you're, peeking library, or this position here towards Moto. You just want to be about here, and you can just do a nice little shift walk release. And that should completely smoke off all of Moto without any gaps on either side. Or hey, right after you've thrown this smoke, you can pull out a flash and just left click at this light bulb here on the lamp, and that's going to pop down on the other side of this box. It's nice and team safe, so your teammates can clear this position to a fully blinded player. And yes, I know what you're thinking. Couldn't they just peek me right here while I'm lining up that flash? And the answer is yes, they absolutely could. However, when you're throwing this flash, it's going to be for your teammates moving up here on lane. So it's fairly likely that before you throw those flashes, this area has been pressured a lot. Maybe they've mollied out pit, they've probably made noise, they've probably flashed. So the likelihood of a sight player choosing to peek out and peek into apps as opposed to tuck up and play a more passive angle is fairly unlikely, and that's why you'll see the pros throw this all the time as a part of their A hits. Now, if you're wanting to rotate away quickly, you can actually do a silent drop out of this window by going into this corner, aiming at this position, holding shift and pressing W in space at the exact same time. That's going to cause a little edge bug and allow you to drop down without making a sound. Credit to Crush CS for sharing this one. Now, from the CT perspective, a lot of times you're going to be giving up hauls, right? You're going to be playing like this. But if a teammate comes in on rotate, you can have them throw a flash for you by going here into this corner alongside the barrel and doing a simple left click throw right here at the right side of this antenna. That is going to roast all of apps, and you can peek with this thing and hopefully catch a lot of players completely off guard with a flash they're not going to be having a good time turning away from. Now, last but not least, whenever you've dropped off of balcony as CT, sometimes you'll see players smoke off apps, and that does help a lot of the time. However, one of the most common things that's going to happen to you as a pit anchor is you're going to get mollied out. So keeping that smoke to be able to drop down just before a hit comes in to completely mitigate the molly and still be able to peek up in front of the smoke is probably a better idea. But hey, the rest of that's for another video, and actually a topic that I've covered in my REFRAG Academy series, so feel free to check that out if you have REFRAG. Otherwise, that's pretty much everything I want to talk about and cover today. So hopefully you guys learned something new, and if not, I hope it was a good refresher for you. Before I go, I want to thank all of my amazing channel members on screen right now. Thank you guys so much for allowing me to do what I love every single day, and I'll see you guys in the next one.